a basic map mod for Operation Harsh Doorstop SDK. It's not too crazy, but there are some things you want to double check when making your map, just to make sure that it shows up in the list, and a couple things you'll want to do to make sure that your AI bots function correctly. So first things first, you want to go ahead and create a map mod or create a mod in general, and name this whatever you want your map to be called. This is going to be also, I believe, how your U plugin is packaged, the name of it, and or it could be off of your level. So I usually try to make the mod name and the level, the map, aka the map, named exactly the same. So we'll just do like test for today. You'll want to put your name here since you're creating it, and a little description for whatever you want to put for your map. You can have it show on startup if you want it to pop up every time. So like if it's something you're working on recently and just wanted to pop up every time you pop open the SDK, this is what you want to check on. Okay, so this mod underscore test data asset, this is new with the updated SDK. You need to have this. So if you're updating a previous project you created to the new SDK, this is a data asset, and you'll need to make sure that your mod has this from now on. And you can do that by coming in here, going to where is it? Miscellaneous, and then data asset. And this specifically needs to be named MOD underscore and then the name of your map. And since we created the project named test, this is going to pop under test. Now, a couple other things. We're going to go over some of the basic stuff that you need to have to get your mod packaged and get it going without any errors and stuff like that. So let's take a look. If you need to modify this again, you can come in here and change this up. I wouldn't recommend doing that because this is exactly how you need it for the time being. But if you needed to add some other paths, you can click here, then click the drop down to set your file paths. Just make sure to save that. Let's see. The next thing you want to cover is create a maps and a factions folder. Now the other thing too is you don't want to, I mean, you can run some tests and drop prefabs and stuff into this AAS-TestMap, but this is like a default map that comes with the SDK, so I wouldn't suggest starting to drop a bunch of stuff in here and then forget and save over your test map. Then you'll have to run verify your files and stuff to try and get it back, and you don't necessarily want to do that. So the first thing I like to do is come into maps and drop in a new level. Name this the name of your map, however you, same as your project if you can. It's a lot easier to just keep things organized that way. One of the things I also want to let you know is if you see a little star right here, it just means you haven't saved it to the project yet. So sometimes you can import meshes and textures and all sorts of things in, and it'll say, hey, it's a new file. You could save it from here, or you can save it from the top. But if you do that, keep in mind you're still in AAS-TestMap. So honestly, I would just go ahead and pop this open. Now your working years. It's a dark scene just mainly because there's no lighting and stuff like that in here. We can add some of that stuff in there in a little bit. That's no big deal. But let's go over some of the other things that you need. Now, let's see here. This is something you always want to check because it's going to let you know that you're still, you're in your project and whatnot. Because sometimes that AAS-TestMap will pop open when you start the project, and just need to make sure that you're also inside of your project folder that you created. Once you're in here, this is your directory of your project. Alright, so let me take a look at some of the other things I want to show you. So the next thing to do is make sure your world settings are correct in order for your map to show up inside of the game mode list. So some of the things to check for: this is your blue 4 and this is your out 4. So these are your default 2 teams. You can set your starting tickets for each team right here. The comm channel, I believe this is just like how you want them. Yeah, I'm not really too sure. Maybe it's just communication channels. I guess it's voice comms within inside of the game, I believe. This, you can name your teams whatever you want them to be named. Faction info class, this is where you'll want to go ahead and set your teams. Now, these are the default factions that come with the SDK. If you choose like the TG ones, I know for sure you'll get like all of the guns and all of the kits, from what I understand, or a majority of them from the game. So usually for testing purposes and whatnot, I usually choose TG Blue 4 and TG Op 4 for the other team. So let's just go ahead and do that. Now the other thing you want to go ahead and check is this game mode override. I like to go ahead and set that to this one right here, BP_HD game _ advanced and secure. That is the default game mode that they have at the moment. So by setting it to this, it's going to go ahead and make sure that it shows up in the list when you make it visible. And compile everything, so it should show up for that game mode. Okay, so let's take a look. What's the next thing here? You don't really need to mess with any of this other stuff at the moment. Alright, so the next thing we want to check, let's keep scrolling down here. You'll need to scroll just a little bit, but we need to get to the map info, and you can actually search for it right here in the world settings. You can search for anything like keywords and whatnot, and it'll bring it up. But we need to go to the map info and look for the Visual Map Select UI. If you select this right here, that's gonna allow you to show your map in the single player menu under the game modes. So this will show up under AAS, Advanced and Secure, which is what you set for the game mode. This is what you want your map to be called. It'll be displayed in the single player menu, and I believe once you're inside of the game as well. So I'll just do test because that's what it's called. You can do a map description. I don't think this shows up anywhere other than inside of some project settings. I haven't really seen that show up in game anywhere. Couple other things. Map preview thumbnail. This is the thumbnail that will pop up in the single player menu, and then this is the banner that will show up where the name of the map displays on the left hand side. And we can drop in some map preview thumbnails as we work on the project. I like to take screenshots and just take those screenshots and move them into here. You can actually take them into programs, editing programs, and drop in text for the map name, do all sorts of stuff, and re-upload them. You can do all sorts of stuff. So yeah, you'll want to make sure you'll set these up. I'll show you how to do that in a little bit. You essentially just take a screenshot, import it in here by doing import into test maps. That's the project you're on, or actually you'll want to go back here, test. You can import it into this section and I'll show you how to do that a little bit later. Let's see, Minimap. So the Minimap is required before you can get this packaged. It's absolutely needed. This is what's going to show up anytime you press M within the game. It's going to be the map display. So how you can do that is by setting up boundaries. Now it's going to be a little bit difficult here because we don't have anything in here. So let's do let's just drop in, first of all, let's drop in lighting. We'll do like a directional lighting, and then we'll drop in a cube for the floor. Just actually, let's do a landscape just for testing purposes. Set the lighting. 10 is good. I don't really know where the source angle is coming from. We don't have a material, so let's just go ahead and set up a material really quick. Let's see, grass. What we're doing here in the content browser, just in case you didn't already know, so you can search for specific things. And it depends on the this section right here will search everything on the left hand side. Sometimes you'll need to like drop down into either core or assets to find some of the main things before you do a search. This section right here searches the project you're actually in, so we can search levels and whatnot, search your prefabs, textures, things like that through here. Just in case you didn't know, you can set up filters here just so that you can find things a little bit easier. If you had a bunch of stuff like prefabs, textures, so like static meshes, materials, textures, you can set that all up right here. So you know. So let's take a look for something. It's not going to be the nicest. Oh, let's set something up like this. And I forgot exactly what I was doing here. Oh yeah, Minimap. So the best way to do this is to set up the minimap with empty actors. You generally just need to create 2 empty actors and place them on each side of the map before you create it. So let's go ahead and change this to the top view. It's a little bit easier that way. Drop in an empty actor. Move this to the edge of the map. Drop in another one. Move that to the edge of the map. And now you got your boundary marker A and B. So up in here you can see you have actor 1 and actor 2. This is what you want to select. And this just says, like, I guess it just draws an imaginary square over the map, and it will select that to create your minimap. So the next thing you do is just click generate minimap, and as you can see, pops up right here. And oh look, my project switched because I was going through here. Just keep that in mind. That is something that does tend to happen. So just find your, Jesus, I collapsed. Gotta exit out of that. There we go. I don't know why it's not selecting my, there we go. Alright, so once you're back into your project, you should be able to find the minimap that was created. You want to make sure and periodically, well, if I can say that word, save. You don't want to lose any of your stuff. As you can see down here, I'm not sure why it didn't save, but you can click here, save all. It'll prompt you and ask you like, hey, you want to save all this stuff? If there's anything you see in here you don't want to save, just uncheck and hit save selected. Just save the stuff that you need. Alright, so there's a couple things we still need to go over before we can package up your basic map. We still need to go over the capture points, the nav mesh bounds volume, and then how to package it. And I got a couple extra things I can show you all that I like to do, or just some of the basic stuff that I think you need to know for creating terrain and stuff like that as an extra. So capture points, this is capture point base. There it is. So it's BP underscore HD capture point base. You can just search BPS like I did, drop this in. What you need is you're gonna need 2 bases for each side. Do a Control C, Control V. We'll just copy paste that, move it to wherever else you want. Go one more time because you do need at least 1 capture point, and we need to set these up. So let's switch to the details panel. Also, a couple things to notice right here, World Outliner. This is going to be a very big friend of yours once you start getting a lot of stuff like this in here. You know, you can collapse stuff or you can search for it. So you could do capture and it'll just bring up all your capture points. And it'll be easier than trying to, like, you know, zoom in here and like select this. You could do that, but you know, it's a lot easier to sometimes just search for stuff and just come in here, edit what you're looking for. So the first thing we need to do is edit the team. So let's go ahead and select, let's say, one of them, come down here, type in team, and we notice, so let's zoom out so we can see exactly what's going on here. Okay, so that's a far back left. I want that to be blue team. We'll say, okay, yep, that's the next one. I want that to be red team. And then the one in the center, we need it to be no team. This can be captured by anybody, and it's not, that's because, yeah, we don't really need to select that. So yeah, that's the basic. As long as you have those set up. Now the next thing you need to do is set up the tiers and the routes. This is very important. I'll try and explain this as best as I can and keep it easy. If you want, let's say if you have multiple points, right? Let's go ahead and use this one because it's the neutral one, and we'll create a point over here. We'll create a point over here. So first things first, we want to set up the tiers. This is important. Well, I guess it depends on how you want to set up your map. I can show you a couple different ways. So the first way is if you want all your points to show up, every single one, you want the AI, the bots to travel to each point, and you want everyone to, you know, have to capture each point. The way you do that is to set them all up on Route 1. That just means that the AI has only one single route to follow, and it's going to follow all of those. If you start setting up multiple routes, then what happens is every time you start the game is going to set up a route at random, and then the other 2 or 3 points or however many points you have that don't follow or don't fall into that route that you want the bots to follow will just not be in the game. So I mean, that's pretty cool if you want procedurally, or I guess random place capture points, different types every time you play. You can set up with different routes, and I can show you what I mean by that. Essentially you would need to do, let's see how many flags we got 5 flags. So you always want to start out from one capture point, so one of the bases. So if we do like this one here, we can type in, first of all we need to set up the tiers. So that's tier 1. We won't do that base just yet. Well, let's just go in the order that we think we want the AI to travel. So say I want them to travel like this, kind of like in an S pattern. This will be the second tier. So this is the second point I want them to go to. Then we do, not that one, this one here. This will be 3. Then this is the next point. This is 4. And then the last base is 5. So you gotta think it's like a direct like line that they follow. It's like a path that you want them to go, so point to point. So if you want all of these points to show up, then the next thing you would need to do is just set up your routes. And you need to just set every single one of them to be route 1. So let's take a look. First point here, it is set to route 1. Sometimes, like, let's say if you copy the AAS-TestMap and you copy it, you know, delete like the walls and you just leave the ground, or create terrain and just kind of use the basic information there, just make sure to save that as, and then do a different name, just so that you don't overwrite the AAS-TestMap default map. That's a good way to start off too. But if you start from scratch, you'll need to drop in like skybox, your points and all that stuff. But if you use the AAS-TestMap, sometimes the possible routes right here will have like 7, and you can add more routes here. And you know, that's route 1, so you have 2 routes. And it says duplicate elements because the names are right here, so you'll have to just adjust that. But I would just go through and delete them if you want all of them to show up. It's not needed. You just need every single one of them to be route 1 if you want all of them to show up. So you would just go through and set every single one of these to route 1, which since I dropped them in manually, they're going to be all route 1. So as of right now, if you were to start the game, it would start you off and you would have to follow until you get to the base. Now by default, I don't think the bases are capturable, but you can type that capture in, and let's see when on capture. So if you want, like, say if the base gets captured, you want the game to end, you can set that up right here. That's just something I want to mention. Generally, I don't think that's something that happens often, but you can do that. You can also provide spawn points. You can also provide spawn point whenever the point is being attacked. That's something you can say here. So now with this setup, they'll just follow this as a line. Now if you wanted to say, like, you wanted this to be a game, just these 3 points, you wanted these 3 points to be a game, and you wanted these 3 points to be a game, those are 3 routes. So this would be route 1, this would be route 2, and this would be route 3. So when you set that up, you would need to do something like, let's see, this path right here will still stay the same, so those are route 1. This path here, this one would be, I get a little confused with this, but then you would need to set this one up to be route, I believe you just set this to be route 2, and then you might actually need to put route 1 and then set up another one and say route 2. I believe that's how you have to set it up, and then do this one would be 1 and 3. So those are just some things you might you might need to set up and play around with. Usually when I set up my maps, I just do one route. It just keeps it simple, and I make sure that all the points that I have a capture at is, you know, something that looks nice and is a little different. So for instance, like if I have a terrain section or a terrain type map and I have buildings, I try to put the capture points near the buildings and complex and stuff like that for CQB combat, different things like that that you want your AI to kind of interact with and whatnot. So that's how you set up your points here. Personally, I'm just gonna set this back to what it was. So just on one route. And let's take a look. The next thing you want to do is make sure to set up a nav mesh bounds volume. This is very important. This is for your bots. This is to make sure that the bots can compute wherever they need to go dynamically. And then I'm going to show you how to create something that's like a nav mesh guide. It's kind of like to pre-calculate information for the bots to determine where to go a little bit better. So for instance, like for building structures or more complicated terrain, it's pretty good to use something like that just to kind of help the AI a little bit more once they come into the radius of the Invoker. I'll show you how you can all set that up. Now for the nav mesh bounds volume, it's pretty easy. Just come back up here, nav mesh bounds volume, here it is. Just drop this into the map anywhere. Did it do it? I don't think it did. Nope. Why is it not dropping in there? Lighting needs to be built. Why? Come on now. Alright, give me 1 second. I guess it's because I started from scratch and there was no lighting or anything in there at all. Found some errors. Come on now. What does this mean? Never had this issue before. Not sure what's going on. No importance volume results. Please add a tightly bounding light mass importance volume to your optimizer scene's quality. Alright, so I'm not sure what this is, so we're just gonna go ahead and I'm going to just use the AAS-TestMap since we got through a majority of this stuff. 1 second. Start the kit back up. Alright, so make sure I don't overwrite this. I'm going to delete the one that we were working on because I'm going to name it exactly the same and I don't want any weird errors there. I'm going to do save as, and we're going to pick our folder that we're working on. And make sure to name that as what we already had it. I'm going to move that inside of maps. Alright, so now we're back. This is technically my test map now. So these in the test map is actually a good place to take a look at how the routes are set up. This is a very good place to look at how the routes are set up. Now the other thing, let's get back to where we were. So this has a nav volume already, nav mesh bounds volume already. As you can see, essentially all you would need to do is drop in from where I showed you before, nav mesh bounds volume right here. You drag drop that in, and then all you need to do is pretty much like encompass everywhere that you want your AI to go. So if you take a look at this, it's pretty much your entire map. Just set it up to be your entire map, and should allow for AI to move around. Now let me take a look at something. I think if I press P, the letter P for Paul, let's get out of that. Yeah, I didn't think it was going to generate anything. So yeah, if you press P for Paul, it's supposed to show you your navigation, like pathing. Everywhere that's bright green is technically where your AI is going to be able to go. They don't have any issues on this map in terms of maneuvering. Like there's enough space between objects and whatnot. But if you start creating complex corners, things that the AI generally just goes in like a straight line. So if they can't get there by going in a straight line, or you know, a way that they can rub on the wall or something until they think they can get around the corner or something like that, that's where you'll want to go ahead and create what I was talking about earlier, which is kind of like a navigation invoker, just to help it like pre-compute the area. So how you do that is, let me take a look here. So once you set up your nav mesh bounds volume, right, the next thing you want to do is go to your heavy areas. So we'll just say like right here. I know that they don't have issues getting through any of this, but let's say they did. Let's say you start up your map, the AI is having troubles getting through something, and they're like, oh crap, keep seeing that they get stuck on a specific thing all the time. This is what you could do. Just come in here, do an empty actor, drop in the empty actor. Let's see, get out of this, let's double click on this. Actually, you probably want to set it up inside of here first. I mean, you can use it here, but I like to, oops, 1 second. Where is it? I'm trying to remember how I created it. Can I do it through here? Yeah, I guess I could. So you add a navigation invoker to your empty actor, and you can name this like navigation nav guide or whatever helps you remember. And this is like the radius that it's going to display. As you can see, once I put that down, it highlighted this entire area in green. So this is going to pre-compute like the stuff for the AI. So when it comes into like the more busier sections that they get stuck on, they're just able to kind of like determine which way to go. So anywhere you see here that's like a solid line means that they can travel between those points. If you had like a break in geometry or like a break in the color, so for instance, you see how it's like not colored on the sides, obviously they can't go up that. It'll be the same in between here. Like these points in green won't be attached. It'll just be like broken up. If it's broken up, like for instance this one right here is very close to it, the AI will still go through that as long as it's connected. But if it's not, then you know, you need to space these walls apart. If it's a building, there's a lot of buildings that the AI can't get into because the doors aren't wide enough. I've been able to get around that by double clicking the prefab once it's inside of the your scene, and then you can usually click like certain parts of the prefab, so like the door and the door frame, and I just scale it sideways until as long as you have P pressed. So if it's not pressed, it'll just be like this. But if you have a navigation invoker down like we just set up, and like here, I'll just show you. Let's say this is like that, your AI is not going to be able to go through there. So I would just go to the door and make it wider. So, or like, you know, in this case, since it's just one object, I would just make it wider. Let's say you're scaling it, boom, the door, the moment that goes like that, you can stop and your AI will go through it. Now the only thing you got to keep in mind, other than just, hey, that they can make it through that, is if you're adding a lot of bots, there, you know, chances are you're going to have 3 or 4 bots that are going to try and go through here, and they're probably going to cluster up and stuff. So just keep that in mind. If they start clustering, you can't get by there, you can create a cluster point that's going to damage the gameplay or the game flow of your map. So yeah, that's just something to keep in mind. Now generally I like to for this invoker, before I forget, let's come back to the where is it, navigation invoker right here, and for this radius, I generally will turn this up to like 5,000. Hello. I don't know why it's not letting me type anything here. It's supposed to. Anyways, I'll do 5,000 here and about 6,000 here. I guess this is like the fall off, just so that I guess it knows, like, yeah, if there's 6,000, cut off the tiles or whatever. So just keep in mind. That's how that works. Mainly, like, if you want everything to stay dynamic and stuff with the bots, don't use this. I would say just use this in the sections that are really busy, that you're like, hey, yeah, the AI just keeps derping out in this section. Use this for those sections. So let's see what else. So the next thing, let's set up, now that I got this AAS-TestMap as a test, I wanted to show you, before we forgot, how to or how I go about creating my like my banners and stuff like that. So let's take a look really quick. So this is the thumbnail preview and this is the banner. I'm going to show you the lazy way, but really, like, for your banner, so that it doesn't get stretched and whatnot, you'll probably want to go into the folder and find one of the banners from the original maps or the official maps and find like the dimensions on those, and then go, you know, you can take like a screenshot, which is what I'm going to show you here in a second. You know, obviously do that, have your best lighting and all the stuff that you want this to be attractive. This is how it's going to show up when people take a look at it in the game. So, you know, yeah, take a nice angle of the map, get some nice lighting in and stuff, and then yeah, so the let's see here, 1 second. We need to go here. I like to switch it to game view so that you don't see any of your you know, selections or any of that kind of stuff. So I'm going to deselect Sky Sphere by doing Control left click on it. Since I was selected, boom, this is good. Now press F9. That's going to pop up your folder. I like to go ahead and select that because I'm going to move this off screen and open the folder, just mainly because it's kind of a pain to find that folder otherwise. If you don't have enough time to click on that link, just press F9 again and you should be able to pop that open. So pressing F9, we'll take a screenshot. Let's say this is a screenshot that you want to use for your map preview. for the thumbnail. Once you have the folder open with the thumbnail, I would move that to somewhere that you know where it's going to be. For the time being, I'm just going to drop that on the desktop. And then come into your content browser, and in here go to import to test. This is wrong folder. Shh, stop looking at my stuff, guys. This is a top secret project. Go ahead and bring it in. This now brings it into your project. Yeah, I know, I gotta save. And you can just save it, you know, you can name it. If you double click this, you can see it better. Check it out. If you do like a delayed click, it'll let you rename. So we'll say thumbnail or whatever you want to name it. Then just drag drop this in here. I do the same for the map preview banner because I'm lazy and I don't upload my own. But let's say you did resize it to the way that it needs to be and it's your map banner. All you do is same thing, import to your project, and then drag drop it into here. So now that that's done, that's everything, guys. The next thing you need to do is just go ahead and package your mod. That's the checklist. Hopefully it wasn't long and boring, but that's pretty much what I feel is the basic and the needed stuff that you want for your project in order for it to package correctly and get it to show up correctly in the single player menu and whatnot. So actually I have to do that through here because, yep, as you can see, we'll go to test. We'll just, oh yep, we did that already. Give me a second, I gotta go through the settings again really fast. Say blue 4, just keep it simple. Remember, this is whatever you want the teams to be called, and this is actually selecting the factions. Remember, these TGs are like pretty much every single kit, so I like to kind of start out with them to just kind of get a general feel for a majority of the guns in the map, see what plays well and whatnot. We'll just generate our own, and those probably exactly the same. Let's double check, I didn't miss anything. Alright, that looks good. Test, yep. Test folder, save. And here's how you package. So as long as you created a project, your project name will be displayed here. Click on the project. And then I like to just set this to the desktop because what it's going to do now is zip up all your files. It's a lot easier to find it on the desktop. So select your folder. In here, I like to personally just pop this up and I'll move it onto the screen so you can see the compiling process. Actually, since this is one of the test maps or one of the default maps, I don't know if it'll compile. Let's see if it gives me an error or not. Yeah, it'll probably compile because there's nothing really too crazy on this map. Let's see. But sometimes, like if you're using some of the official maps that have more complicated things on there, and you run like, say, like you drop in some custom vehicles or something like that, it'll more than likely not package. Just a heads up. This looks like it went through. I'm gonna exit out of here. Yep, it went through. Okay, so the next thing you want to do, and hopefully it's gonna show up on my screen, but is take a look at, here's your zip. This was the file that was created. So you just want to go ahead and unzip this to your mods location. Here it is. We'll do extract all. Now keep in mind, your folder that you create in the mods folder, in the Operation Harsh Doorstop mods folder, needs to be named exactly like this U plugin. This is the level, I believe this is made off of the level name. So yeah, I'll show you how to do that. Browse. Dang it, it reset all my stuff. Alright. So where is it? Where is it? I think it's Steam. Steam apps. Common. Harsh Doorstop. Playtest. That's the one that I have. Harsh Doorstop. So just keep in mind, it's after you get through the two Harsh Doorstop folders, then you have where you need to create your mods folder if you don't already have it created. So if this is the first time you're going to install a mod or anything like that, you need to make it, and I would name it exactly like this. Now you select this. Inside of your mods folder, I will go ahead and come in here and create the name of what this right here, the U plugin. So whatever you named your mod, your U plugin is exactly what you want to name this. Test. So once you make your folder, go ahead and select folder and extract it. That was a quick one because there's not really anything in there, but sometimes that takes a little bit of time, so just let it do its magic. Now let's go ahead and load up the game. Single player. If this was packaged correctly, it should be listed here. Test. And here it is, yo. Select that. This is your thumbnail, and this is your banner. So this is stretched because, like I told you, I did it lazily and just dragged a huge ass picture into here, part of my cursing. So it's stretched. But the reason why I also just added the default bots for testing purposes is because, or factions, is because now with the latest update, you can select whatever factions you want from here and select the number of bots from here. This should make it a lot easier. So if you have faction mods installed, this is where you would find them, other than the default ones. So yeah, you can just click here, hit start, and have fun. So that's the basics to that. Let's take a look. And yeah, and that's pretty much all there is to it, guys. Hope you enjoy. Hope this helps. If there's anything you need help with personally, or if you're in the Discord, reach out to me, and I'm willing to help you all out anytime. All right, y'all.